Yo, what's going on everyone? Back with another critical Elliott Wave analysis. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the continued narrative from our previous analysis, do a quick recap of where we stand, and see if there has been any adjustments to the wave counts on the medium time frame, and most importantly, what the election results mean when intertwining it with the current technicals. As Donald Trump approaches a historic comeback to reclaim the US presidency at the time of recording, we're witnessing a significant response in the cryptocurrency market. There's no surprise there, ladies and gentlemen, as discussed in yesterday's live stream. Bitcoin has surged past its previous high, aligning with the expectations outlined in the previous analysis. Now, ever since August, we have been discussing this idea of wave 4 on the macro to be complete, and then trying to develop what kind of patterns may be forming going forward and adjusting as necessary, as we have done. And day by day, this idea is coming to fruition. So with that being said, we have been juggling back and forth on how this idea was developing, with one of the first to call for a leading diagonal with high conviction to develop our first motive or impulse wave to the upside for a wave 1. And due to the accumulative characteristic, we stuck to the diagonal idea for quite some time, with having some of the general direction in mind, which was to the upside. And more importantly, we were able to abandon this idea as well, as others were starting to adopt this idea. And if you have been following me closely, I have been very sound that the impulse idea has become my primary idea, with the rest being alternative scenarios. So where do we stand today? It's likely that we are still continuing this trend of creating higher lows and developing a series of nested 1-2 structures in respect to the hierarchy of degrees. Now, what this means is the nature of this is that we want the 1-2s to be getting smaller to finally break out and transition into the final expansion phase, where we're going to be creating the final 3-4-5, 3-4-5, and the larger 3-4-5 once again, as we have about 3 of them that we want to be completing, which of course will bring us into price discovery. And technically, we did break into price discovery just moments ago before we finally conclude the bull market. Yes, I still do believe that we are going to have a bear market, so we are going to be transitioning into a full-on bear as the charts speak. To me personally, that's how I am seeing it later on. But again, we are still maintaining this bullish momentum for the time that we are currently in. Now, for this higher degree wave 5, it is quite ambitious, but that is just the current state of affairs. A lot of our bearish ideas are even becoming out of the picture, ladies and gentlemen. There's really no alternative way or path that can fit into a good conviction or highly probable bearish scenario where we are currently at 73.5K at the current time of recording. So that being said, where do we stand on this current count? Like I've said, I believe that we are completed with this 1-2, this 1-2, and we were at that 1-2 in the previous video, and we were looking for this 1-2 to also be complete in the primary degree. And now it looks like it is also now creating that impulsive move of the minor degree going into that wave 1 of the intermediate degree. Now this could just continue, ladies and gentlemen. We could still just be working in that wave 3 primary degree. All of the shorter time frames is all noise to me, and what we're kind of focusing on is the overall direction, and everything in between becomes very volatile. It's going to get very volatile as we do break up into price discovery, but there is a possibility that we can have pullbacks along the way. So that is why we also want to be risk managing our ideas. But can we fall back into any bearish alternatives? That's yet to be seen from me, but I did create or take the time to kind of go back and recap a lot of everything of what I have discussed in the previous kind of distribution range. Anything that can help the bears in their regard of how they can see a possible pullback, because really, a pullback can happen anytime, right? So we want to be neutral as possible with that being said. But as the charts speak to us, we still want to stick to this idea of this wave 4, and we're continuing this wave 5 to the upside. But what if, just a big what if, there is a possibility that wave 4 has terminated somewhere else and we may be working in a different pattern where we're not going for a higher ambitious target of around $100,000. Absolutely possible, but it is very low on my probability scale again. So what we have here, instead of having our wave ABC completing here, what I did was I put the WXY and have this last move as a possible triangle. Now, this is absolutely valid from a theoretical perspective, and we can have the termination point here, and we can start our impulsive or motive or whatever wave that we're looking for, the final actionary wave to the upside that we're kind of anticipating. This is possible as a possible ending diagonal still, ladies and gentlemen, as we are still currently, well, I guess even wave 5 could be complete if you see this as an ABC to the upside, but right now it doesn't look quite impulsive, so I'm not sure. We'll have to kind of go back and forth in this alternative idea and start creating sub-ideas for this alternative idea. But right now, the general markets, I've said this time after time, and I think a lot of Elliotticians, the hardest thing that they do, have a hard time kind of computating is understanding what the general markets see. The general markets does not see this as a possible technical bottom. That's just not how the general markets are seeing it. It's very likely that the general markets are seeing this here as a bottom. If we broke down, we can always adjust the count for a different type of bearish pattern and it kind of adjust what kind of accumulation pattern we may be in here. However, the general markets just do not see this as a triangle. It's just simple as that. Now, is it invalid? No, but because it's not invalid, it doesn't mean that it's the higher probable scenario. And that's where a lot of Elliotticians fall back and have a hard time. And especially with this kind of idea, it just falls into the category of confirmation bias. And when you have confirmation bias, that's usually a very bad sign from a trading strategy perspective, and that could be very, very detrimental to not only your portfolio but also possibly your short-term trading approach. So right now, this being a WXY, it's absolutely valid, and this is the only way I can see it possibly seeing this as an ending diagonal. Otherwise, if we are seeing this on the larger time frame, we could technically be in a 1-2-1-2 if you're even seeing this as a possible flat idea. I mean, that's very pushing it, and at that point it's not even going to be a wave 3-4, but you're going to have to see this as a possible nesting larger degree wave 1-2. But at that point, if we're going to be having a pullback at that level and breaking this level, it's going to be extremely bearish, and at that point I don't think this smaller degree is going to be larger than this 1-2, and that's already ruining kind of the idea of having a nested 1-2 structure where you, again, the whole idea is going back to this impulsive idea by creating smaller and more shallow pullbacks as we can for the terminated smaller degree wave 1-2s. So hopefully that was helpful. This ending diagonal is the only way I can see it, ladies and gentlemen, terminating a little bit earlier than that higher ambitious impulsive target. It's just the current state of affairs, ladies and gentlemen. That's how we have to look at the markets. It just seems like Bitcoin still wants to go up, especially with a victorious round for the presidential election, with having Trump as the favor for the cryptocurrency markets. And I think this is why we still want to stick with this idea of having this nested 1-2 idea going forward. Now, in terms of these actual targets, it's not drawn to scale whatsoever. We don't even have the Fibonacci's set up. Right now, I still think that we are going to be approaching anywhere between the $80,000 to the $100,000 as the minimum kind of expectation, but again, anything can happen for the worst. But right now we are breaking this previous high and we're just creating a series of higher lows, ladies and gentlemen. Now that doesn't go to say we could come back down and retest some major levels, but at that point we'll have to adjust the count anyways, and I'm not sure what kind of adjustable counts we can have right now. It's a bit too early to call, just like we see for the battleground states and the swing states, like they say, quote unquote, and not even saying that Trump has won the election. I think it's pretty clear, and it's pretty crystal clear that Trump has won the election. So that's how I am putting it right now. I think that this is going to be my primary idea continuation going forward. Thank you very much. Hopefully that was helpful. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you really want to see more updates for Bitcoin. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic rest of the week and happy Wednesday. Bye-bye.